Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for your support of Indie Agency News. And let's meet an indie agency. We are going to North Carolina. But once he talks, though, you're going to say, he's not from North Carolina. Freddie Laker, founder of Chameleon Collective.
Posh, definitely local North Carolina accent.
Oh, the accent's so North Carolina. I mean, it's definitely not North England.
It's definitely not North.
You do not have a northern accent. And if you know for sure. So the name Joe in the North is J. So anyway, let's see here. So here's the thing about you. You and I first met, and you said, I'm not really an agency, but I'm this, but I am, but I'm not. Like you. And here's what I love is you got the chameleon for the name. It all freaking tracks. It all perfectly tracks. And your story is one of really deep entrepreneurialism. I'd love to just get the thumbnail of your background and how you ended up where you are now.
I will make the very shortened version of this.
I know there's a long one.
My big break back in the very beginning was starting one of the first 24-hour-a-day internet radio stations in the world called The Womb with some other very clever co-founders. And that gave me my big break into what was then, I think, interactive, and then became digital. I founded an agency called Chameleon, where we had a great run at winning tons of awards and not making very much money, at which point we ended up transitioning basically the business into Sapient. At the time, I was one of the co-founding members of the Society of Digital Agencies. It's really worth noting. So I believe fiercely in the power of independent agencies, and I always have done. And I think that I love about the indie world is just it's a working with other entrepreneurs. Basically, there's such a great entrepreneurial spirit in the indie world. From Sapient, I went and landed flatly on my face after forming a SaaS company that made video-based avatars that kind of read the news to you. I thought it was totally insane at the time. There's now a couple of companies worth over $1 billion doing that. Wow. And then I formed a company called Chameleon Collective. And so sometimes when I say, hey, it's not an agency, I always like to stress to people, look, I spent my fair share of time in the agency world. It is worth noting I did also spend 2 or 3 years brand side as a CMO. And it really put me in a place where I kind of swore I would never start another company again as this company was kind of born around me. But this kind of knowing I didn't want to start an agency in the traditional model, taking what I had learned from being brand side and working in that world, taking what I had learned from working with private equity backed companies and how investors think about building value and building businesses. And it really changed the way that I thought about how I could help other people grow their businesses. And so when I explain what Chameleon Collective is and how it works, I think you'll feel the little components of all these different parts of my history, coming all rolled together, and it's the most tremendous thing I've ever had the pleasure of being part of, and the best company I've ever built.
No, I love it. And so first of all, shout out to Tom Beck. So at Soda, so good friend. Michigan, he's a University of Michigan guy, so I will withhold my opinion on that one. But it's funny, you talked about the avatar thing. It's like, well, that's sort of what Fox News is now. They're just sort of robots now anyway. But I digress. But I've mentioned this especially to students at Portland State University and wherever I go in terms of education, especially younger and newer people getting into this business. What you've explained is exactly the spirit of when we start our careers, we get a toolbox and it's empty. And so we start putting all these different tools into that box. And you're not going to take everything away from every stop. You're going to take one or two things. And that's the most important thing that you put into that box. And your path, and I can appreciate this because my path was definitely not very direct. And super not direct. And so I love the spirit of that you're taking the best of what you've learned and put it into this. And Companies and agencies, they're known for certain things. What would you say you're best known for, and what would you say are the top three things, the top three core strengths that you bring to this business?
When I think about the three things that people probably know us for the most, one is around the idea of actually creating lasting transformation in the types of companies they build. I want to be clear, like I love marketing, I love creativity, I love advertising, I enjoy all of these things in their own right. And but when I think about the type of work that Chameleon Collective does, um, we basically have built a business around working with typically investor-backed businesses that will work with the general market and effectively not just addressing short-term challenges they have, which could be solved with a marketing tactic or a customer experience issue or something like that, but really kind of injecting the DNA into their companies so that they actually don't need us anymore. So
Mm.
we try and work ourselves out of a job by fundamentally changing the DNA of the companies that we work for. It is worth noting this is a very, very bad business model for an agency. But this is why we tend to work with a lot of investors. So once we do transform one of the companies, they tend to move us over to another company. Again, I want to be clear, we're not exclusive to investors. We've just
Sure.
found it's a place that we play very, very naturally. I'd say the second thing we're really known for is what we call our lead, deliver, recruit framework, which is how we
Mhm.
drive transformation. So effectively, while as a company we're effectively focused on anything that has to do with reaching customers, so branding, marketing, customer experience, e-commerce, retail, sales, things like that. The way that we drive it is through first our bench of interim and fractional leaders. We've got about 45 to 50 interim and fractional leaders. Think CMOs, chief revenue officers,
Mhm.
things like that, heads of e-commerce, and they're driving kind of top-down change. Then we've got a secondary bench that, if you can count our contractors, is probably about 230 odd people that is very tactically focused. This could be, copywriters, could be a designers, could be a data scientist, could be a growth marketer, could be a digital marketing manager, could be an Amazon specialist, whatever it might be.
Mhm.
But this
Mhm.
is us kind of really making sure that the rubber meets the road from
Meet
these,
in the middle. Yep.
and stuff actually gets done, right?
Yep.
And then we have a third team, which I consider to be kind of our secret sauce or special twist. We actually have 8 full-time recruiters, and I don't mean recruiters for us, I mean for our clients. So a client might bring us in and say, look, I need you to launch this new product line for us. We don't have the right people to do this right now. We will kind of bring in maybe the right leaders who can drive that initiative. We can put the right supporting cast in. We'll get this new product launch going. And then, assuming that goes as well as we hope it's going to go, the client might say to us, look, this is great. It's so successful, in fact, that we think we need to bring some of this in-house.
Mm.
We could do that. And maybe we can build a hybrid team and say, look, this, and this is going to still be Chameleon Collective, but we understand that you need to bring this in-house. And unlike a traditional agency model, we're not going to fight them on that. We're going to, no, this is the right strategy. We support you. So here, let me help you find those people. And so that's a very different way than most any industry and professional services is working. It seems counterintuitive that you're kind of cutting your own hand off or whatever, but it's worked for us, and it's allowed us
Right.
to grow pretty substantially.
Well,
Um,
it's an evolution of a model if you think about it,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
every
exactly.
agency wants to evolve and grow, and
Yeah.
so it's finding where the lanes are that you can play most effectively.
Yeah, and this is kind of what I learned from being on both sides of the equation and saying, look, part of me is that my business model is when I was in the agency business wanted me to do this and this, but I know that's not actually what I think the customer was thinking anymore, and they
Uh,
needed to find something that worked for both of us.
right.
I'd say, and thing that I think we're probably known for is having quite a unique culture. Chameleon Collective is a true collective. I think the term collective has been hijacked a lot the last couple of years,
Fair.
which means like you're not a real company. It's like Freddie and Friends on LinkedIn, and everyone's in a spreadsheet. And it's like really like two people in the company. That's not what we are. We are collectively owned. People that have invested in Chameleon Collective, and I mean in time and effort and commitment to the company. I don't mean by pumping money into it. We all own a chunk of the company. We use a derivative of management style called holacracy, and we effectively collectively make decisions. And we have a kind of a free flowing leadership structure
Mm.
that helps us to steer the direction of our company. And it's really unusual. It's a very, very different kind of business. In fact, we just finished writing a book about it called Collective Capitalism. And, I used to think how we ran was totally insane. And then we hit the Inc. 5,000 4 years in a row and thought
Hmm.
maybe, crazy, but crazy like a fox. And
Right.
it's proven to be pretty a resilient model during a pretty tough economy in the last couple of years, too.
Right. Yeah, you're going to force me to read that.
I am gonna
You're going to make me read, Freddie?
Yeah,
I like Freddie and Friends, though. That sounds like a good show.
exactly.
Right after Fox and Friends on Fox
Oh my
News.
God.
Freddie and Friends.
We're gonna have to get you off that news wagon. I'm trying to not to watch.
Brought
for
to
at
brought
least-
brought to you by Team GB or whatever, GB News, whatever they are. Oh God, what the hell? Anyway, back to the topic at hand. You touched on why being independent is so important. Why is it so important to you and to the team?
It's a great question. I I really care about controlling my own destiny.
Mm,
Uh, I think there's something about the freedom to choose your path that's really important. I think it's one of the reasons why I've always chosen to be an entrepreneur, and when I haven't, I've frankly struggled a little bit because
mm,
I think kind of deciding my future is really important to me. I think that there's something I talk a lot about being like fiercely independent is something that I think is great. I hate to admit that even when I'm driving off the cliff, I'm much happier as long as I'm at the wheel.
right.
And I think that DNA also, frankly, exists within Chameleon Collective a lot. This is that holocratic management style I talked about earlier. Effectively means that the chameleons can, which is how we refer to our people, like they can pick and choose like what projects they want to work on and what clients they want to work with and who they want to collaborate with, and they can choose not to work on a project if they don't want to. And
Right.
I think a lot of the reason a lot of people end up joining us is because a lot of people are craving this kind of ability to define their own destiny. And I frankly think that attracts a really hyper entrepreneurial kind of person, which is one of the reasons why our culture has been so strong.
That's great. What should brands know about working with you? What's the main reason a brand should work with all of you?
Great question. I think that having incredible talent and doing great work is table stakes for any kind of top tier business. And so obviously we aim to have all of those things because I just don't think there's any kind of acceptable bar but long beyond that. But I think if I told a brand, what they would remember us for is what's the very first thing I said today is I'd say, look, we're designed to make, success that sticks. We want to do
Mm,
leaves a lasting impression on you. We're less interested in doing kind of short transactional projects that maybe have or a flash in the can or whatever, a splash, whatever you want to call it. We're far more interested in doing work that we know is going to fundamentally make them a different company. That could
mhm.
be a brand transformation. It could be a marketing transformation. It could be a full-blown kind of business transformation. But at the end of the day, I think we're more interested in things that really feel like the company was fundamentally different after they were finished working with us.
Durability matters.
Sure,
Durability
value
matters.
matters.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
You touched on talent, which I love. I love that you're smushing the two together. That's a technical term, technical business. That's what you're learning at Kellogg, people. You're learning that at Northwestern. It's the
Smush,
smushing,
smush.
right?
I
Exactly.
have I have 4 chapters dedicated to smushing in the book.
Smushing,
It's
right,
you're gonna
right.
have to read it
All of
now.
you, Wharton and Harvard and Kellogg and whatever the USC one is. Uh, you know. So let's talk about talent, though. Why should talent be putting you on their list?
Also a great question. I think that this kind of culture that we defined earlier, I don't think there's really anything like it out there right now. I think that if for people that um, are looking at maybe how they might want to approach working. I mean, we're not just even talking about where you want to work. I mean, just
Mm.
literally your life. I think there are people that are saying, look, I like a traditional corporate environment that maybe is way over here. And then you've got some people out there who've embraced the gig economy and they want to go and be freelance and independent workers, and they're kind of over here. And there's some upsides to that. You know, you've got a lot of freedom, a lot of independence, all those things I kind of mentioned earlier, but it's hard. There's a lot of things that are challenging to being independent out there on your own. On the opposite side of the spectrum, there are a lot of things that are very challenging about, you know, corporate life. I think you
Hmm.
can't pick and choose who you work with and how you work and where you work, but there's a lot of stability and things like that that may be there that people don't perceive typically with being an independent consultant. I think what we've done sits right in between these two things. I think we've created an environment where you've got you know, a lot of the stability of corporate world. But you've got a higher earning potential because you're not kind of capped by the traditional corporate structure. I think you've got a lot of the freedom of being an independent, but there's some compromises where you maybe say, "Hey, I'm not, you know, it's not quite going over to here," but you're finding some balance of you know, how you can express yourself and the choices you can make, and while still working within a kind of a collective mindset. And I find that people that are trying to figure out what that right path for them is, like Chameleon Collective isn't for everyone,
Right.
but for people who are considering going down that independent path and saying maybe that and it's a little scary, and maybe that's not quite, you know, what I'm looking for. I don't want to be totally out of my own. This kind of collective model is a huge win, and I've, you know, over the years, you know, we've grown pretty considerably. And I find it's not uncommon for me to have a conversation with someone where they said, "Look, I've been working my whole career and I'm looking for something like this, and this is the first time I found it, and I've never heard of someone working like the way you guys do." And again, I haven't even got into all the nuance of it.
Sure. Sure.
And it's a home run for some people.
True. Um, this is a new question we started throwing in, and it is what our People Award is going to be called coming up soon. We have 4 awards.
Okay.
Design is open now. Do you consider yourselves weirdos, misfits, or underdogs? And why is that?
Um, I consider us a challenger,
Sure.
like a challenger brand, and if that makes us a weirdo or a misfit, I'm not quite sure. I do feel like, you know, people talk about like challenging the status quo or whatever, but I really think that you know, there's more companies starting to emerge like us the last couple of years. But when we first started doing this 10 years ago, I really didn't run into anyone that ran like we did. And so I think we're a challenger, and I think some people maybe thought we were weirdos and misfits 10 years ago, and I
Well,
feel
that's
like
okay.
but I think now maybe not quite as much, because I think there's, you know, we're the way that we've designed our company and the way that we're thinking about working doesn't sound quite as crazy as it used to be, and I think that's a good thing,
Mhm.
honestly.
Nice,
You know,
nice dodge. I'm kidding.
I'm personally a weirdo, but I don't want to
That I
put
know.
anybody on my lot, you know.
No, I know. No, I got it. Little thought experiment to wrap up here. Whether they are current client or not, who's a CMO or marketer you want to say hi to?
I'm going to say hi to Jonathan Mildenhall over at
Ah,
Get. Yeah, I love him. I think he's just great people, and I think this new rebrand they've been doing is so cool. And I love how they rolled it all out in this like giant museum space where everyone could just kind of go around and just interact with the brand. I thought that was just the coolest. So I'm hoping to be catching up in the next couple of months. He's finally come up for air, but if
right.
not, hi Jonathan.
Uh, he's awesome. Yeah, no, he's awesome. What else is on your mind before we wrap up? Don't get all tech. Don't no work stuff. Talk about other stuff.
Geez, I mean, okay, I mean, you never have to encourage me too hard on that front.
No, I
What
know.
agencies have we got in the Indie Agency News Network that are into VR? That's like my personal addiction.
Oh, okay. Well, members, raise your hands if you're doing VR. Well,
I want to find some people that we haven't
huh?
got any of that kind of roster at Chameleon Collective, and I'm super passionate about this space, and I know I can find some brands to work on it. We need some people that can do the work.
Okay, I like that. I like that. Huh?
That's that. Yeah, that's
I
my
did not expect that, Freddie.
bro. You said, throw it out there.
No,
You know,
that's
I moved to Western North Carolina, and I became super fascinated with the VR world during COVID. And yeah, I've been like building virtual worlds as like a side thing just for fun the last couple of years. And I go now when I want to go have a drink with some friends, I go have a drink in VR with people for
oh
my
my
friends
God,
who aren't local to Western North Carolina. So
so good.
there's a tidbit about me you didn't know.
Okay, I like it. I like it. Well, Freddie, first of all, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for being a member, and your support definitely goes beyond being a member. You are an integral part of us growing this platform, growing this community, and growing this business. And there's more for it. We'll explain that in the write-up. We'll explain that in the write-up. But your contributions to this are many and myriad, and we can't thank you enough. And best wishes, man, as we all keep going forward.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on today. That was fun.